The night was colder than usual. A strong wind pushed through the ruined streets, carrying dust and broken pieces of old metal. The human, Daniel, walked carefully, holding a small lamp in his hand. He had gone out only to check the empty warehouses for supplies, but something strange stopped him. He heard it. A sound soft, weak, and almost lost inside the storm at first. Daniel thought it was the wind crying between the broken walls. But then it came again. It was sharper, trembling, almost like a child's voice. He froze. His heart began to beat faster. Help! The whisper was faint but real. Daniel turned his head, moving the lamp in a slow circle. The light touched a collapsed building, half buried in shadows. Something was there, watching him. Two tiny reflections flashed back like glowing coins. His breath caught. Not human eyes. Not normal. For a moment, he thought of leaving. This world was dangerous, full of traps and strange creatures. But the sound came again, weaker this time, as if whoever was calling was running out of strength. Daniel stepped forward. His boots crunched against glass and stone. The closer he came, the clearer the shapes became. Two small figures huddled together under broken steel beams, their bodies shivering. They were girls, but not human. Their skin was pale with a faint silver glow, and their hair, tangled and dirty, shone like threads of light. He could see fear in their wide, glowing eyes. The older one pushed the smaller girl behind her, trying to protect her. She hissed softly, like a cornered animal. Daniel slowly lowered himself, showing his empty hands. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm not here to hurt you." The girls did not answer. They only held each other tighter. The younger one coughed, a small, dry cough that made Daniel's chest tighten. They were weak, maybe starving. He glanced around. The ruins were silent, but he felt the weight of unseen eyes. Someone had left them here. Or worse, someone was hunting them. Daniel's mind raced. He had little food, little water. Taking them with him would be a risk. But leaving them here? That would mean certain death for the girls. The older girl suddenly spoke, her voice trembling but strong enough to cut through the wind. "Please, don't leave us." Daniel felt something heavy in his chest. He reached forward, moving the broken steel carefully. The girls flinched, expecting pain, but instead, he used his strength to lift the debris. Dust and rubble fell away. Slowly, he pulled them out, one by one. The younger one clung to his coat, her small fingers digging into the fabric. The older girl watched his every move, suspicious but desperate. When Daniel stood, both of them were in his arms. He could feel how light they were, bones under skin, barely alive. The storm howled again, pressing dust into his eyes. He looked at the empty road back to his cabin. A dangerous path, but he had made his choice. "Hold on," he muttered. "Get you safe." The girls didn't speak, but their silence was full of trust. Their glowing eyes slowly closed as exhaustion pulled them into sleep. Daniel carried them through the ruins, step by step, never once looking back. Because behind him, somewhere in the shadows, something moved. And he knew this rescue was only the beginning. The storm did not end until morning. All night, Daniel carried the two alien girls through broken streets. His arms burning with weight, his breath forming white clouds in the freezing air. By the time he reached his cabin, his muscles ached, but he never once let go. Inside, the small wooden cabin felt warmer than the outside ruins, but not by much. The fire in the corner was weak, only a few glowing embers left. Daniel laid the girls on an old blanket near the fire, his lamp casting long shadows across the room. The younger girl stirred first. Her silver hair fell over her thin face as she opened her eyes. For a second, she looked terrified. Her hands gripped a blanket like she was ready to run. Daniel held up both hands gently. "You're safe here," he said in a calm voice. "No one will hurt you." The older girl sat up, quickly pulling her sister close. Her glowing eyes narrowed at Daniel. She didn't trust him, not yet. She spoke in broken words, her voice sharp. "Why? You take us." Daniel thought for a moment before answering. "Because no one else did. You would have died out there." The older sister didn't reply. She only held her little sister tighter. The younger one buried her face in her sister's chest, but Daniel noticed something. Her lips moved silently, almost as if she was whispering a thank you. Daniel stood up and moved to the old shelf. From a small tin box, he took out his last piece of bread. He broke it into halves and placed it carefully on a plate before sliding it toward the girls. They stared at it like it was treasure. The younger girl reached first, but the older one stopped her, suspicious again. She looked at Daniel, her eyes asking if this was a trick. "Eat," Daniel said softly. "It's not much, but it's yours." Slowly, the older girl gave the bread to her sister. The little one took a bite, then another, tears forming in her eyes. Hunger had carved deep lines in their faces. Daniel felt something heavy in his chest. How long had they been alone like this? The fire crackled, throwing orange light across the walls. Outside, the wind howled against the wooden door. But inside, silence grew. The girls ate quietly. Daniel sat back, watching them. Questions swirled in his head. Who were they? Why were they left to die? And most of all, who would come looking for them? The younger girl finished eating and leaned against the blanket, eyes closing again. The older one stayed awake. She kept staring at Daniel as if studying him. Finally, she spoke, her words broken but clear. "You, human, not like others." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Others," she hesitated, then whispered, "Hunters." The word felt like a knife in the room. Hunters. That explained the fear in their eyes, the way they had hidden in the ruins. Someone had abandoned them, or worse, someone wanted them dead. Daniel leaned forward. "Who hunts you?" The older girl shook her head, refusing to speak more. But her trembling hands told him enough. Night began to fall again. The cabin grew darker, the storm finally quieting outside. Daniel threw more wood into the fire, making it burn stronger. He moved to the window and pulled the curtain. For a second, he thought he saw movement in the distance, a shadow, tall and still, watching. But when he blinked, it was gone. His instincts screamed. Someone had found their trail behind him. The girls curled close together under the blanket. The younger one was already asleep, her breathing soft. The older girl's eyes stayed on him, half afraid, half curious. Daniel knew he had to protect them, no matter who came. But deep inside, he also knew something else. This was no ordinary rescue. Something larger was waiting just beyond the dark, and by tomorrow, he would find out exactly what. The night stretched long and heavy. Daniel barely slept. He sat in his old wooden chair, rifle resting across his knees, eyes fixed on the door. Every creak of the cabin made him tighten his grip. The storm had calmed outside, but silence was no comfort. It only made him hear the shadows better. The girls were still asleep on the blanket near the fire. The younger one's breathing was soft and steady, but the older one twitched in her sleep, whispering words Daniel couldn't understand. Perhaps names. Perhaps nightmares. At dawn, a pale light crept through the cracks of the window. Daniel stood, stretching his stiff body. He stepped outside for only a moment to gather a bit of water from the barrel near the cabin. The air was cold, the ground damp with last night's storm. He froze in the mud. Near the tree line were footprints, large, fresh. Not his. His heart thudded. Someone had been here. Watching, Daniel hurried back inside, bolting the door. The older girl had woken. She sat up, her silver eyes fixed on him. She could tell something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked, her voice still weak. Daniel didn't answer right away. He poured water into a cup and handed it to her. She took it carefully, sharing a sip with her sister, who stirred awake. Finally, Daniel spoke. "We're not alone out here." The girls stiffened. The younger one clutched her sister's arm, wide-eyed. The older girl lowered her head, whispering a word that sounded like a prey roar, maybe a warning. Then it happened. A knock. 3 sharp raps on the wooden door. Daniel's blood ran cold. Whoever it was hadn't tried to break in. Whoever it was wanted him to open the door. The girls scrambled closer to the wall, fear written across their faces. The younger one shook her head wildly, whispering, "No, no, no." Daniel raised a hand to silence them. He stepped toward the door, his rifle steady. "Who's there?" he called. His voice was firm, but inside his chest felt tight. There was no answer, only silence. Then another knock. Slower this time, Daniel's eyes flicked to the window. For a heartbeat, he saw movement, a shadow slipping across the pale morning light. But it wasn't the hunters he expected. It was smaller, quieter, against his better judgment. Daniel unlatched the door and pulled it open just enough to see, standing there, cloaked in a dark fabric torn by the wind, was a woman. Not human. Her skin shimmered faintly, silver like the girl's. Her eyes glowed with the same strange light, but older, sharper. Filled with something ancient. The girls gasped behind him. "Mother." Daniel's grip on the rifle loosened slightly. He looked back at them, then at the woman. The word mother echoed in his head. The woman stepped forward, her voice calm but powerful. "Human," she said, in perfect words. "You took my daughters, you kept them safe." Daniel opened the door wider, though his instincts screamed caution. The woman's presence filled the cabin like a storm waiting to break. The girls rushed to her, clinging to her legs. She knelt, stroking their hair gently, relief flooding her face. For a moment, Daniel saw only a mother reunited with her children. But then, her eyes lifted to him. There was something else there, something heavy. She rose to her full height, taller than him, her silver hair falling down her back like a river of light. She placed a hand on his shoulder. Her grip was firm, almost too firm. "You risked your life for them," she said. "And for that, you must be rewarded." Daniel frowned. Reward? He hadn't done it for that. He had done it because leaving them was unthinkable. But the woman's eyes glowed brighter, and a strange energy filled the room. The air thickened. The fire crackled higher. And in that moment, Daniel realized this was no ordinary mother. This was something far more dangerous. Daniel stood frozen, the alien woman's hand heavy on his shoulder. Her skin was cool, almost metallic, but alive. Her eyes glowed brighter than the fire behind them, and when she spoke, her voice carried both kindness and power. "You gave them shelter when others gave them fear," she said softly. "Humans are not known for this." Daniel shifted, uneasy. "I didn't do it for thanks," he muttered. "They were just children. Anyone would have done the same." The woman's eyes narrowed, as if measuring the truth of his words. She let out a small, bitter laugh. "Anyone? No. I watched. Many passed them by. Some even hoped they would die. Only you stopped. Only you chose mercy." The girls clung to her, their small fingers gripping her cloak tightly. The younger one's face was buried in her mother's side, but the older stared up at Daniel, her eyes full of questions. Daniel tried to step back, but the woman's grip held him firm. "You say you don't want thanks?" she whispered. "But you cannot refuse what is owed." He frowned. Ode. She released him, turning toward the fire. The shadows danced over her silver skin. From a pouch tied at her waist, she pulled a small crystal, no bigger than a coin. It shimmered with blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat. The girls gasped. The older one whispered a word in their own language reverence. Fear, maybe both. Daniel eyed the crystal warily. What is that? The woman held it delicately, as if it weighed far more than its size. A seed, she said. From my people, from our ancestors. To us, it is life itself. Daniel's chest tightened. He didn't like where this was going. And you're giving it to me? The woman stepped closer, placing the crystal in his palm. The instant it touched his skin, warmth surged through him, spreading like fire in his veins. His knees almost buckled. He clenched his fist around it, staring at her in shock. What is this doing to me? He demanded. Her eyes softened. It is binding. It is choosing. You saved my daughters, so the seed will not let you walk alone again. Daniel's breath caught. What do you mean, binding? I didn't agree to this. The woman tilted her head. Choice is not always yours, human. You have stepped into our path, now it has taken hold of you. The girls looked confused, but Daniel could see the fear in their mother's eyes was gone. Instead, there was certainty. A strange relief. He placed the crystal roughly on the table, as if wanting to rid himself of it. But the glow remained on his hand, a faint blue mark, spreading across his skin like veins of light. This isn't a reward, Daniel hissed. This is a chain. The woman studied him calmly. Perhaps. Or perhaps it is protection. The hunters will not stop. They smelled weakness in my children. They will return for the man, now for you. The seed will give you strength when steel and fire fail. Daniel's stomach nodded. He wanted to reject it, to push it away, but a part of him already knew the truth. He would not abandon the girls. He couldn't. A sudden noise outside made him tense. A branch snapping. Footsteps crunching in the mud. The woman's head turned sharply, her eyes glowing brighter. They are here, she whispered. Daniel grabbed his rifle. His body still felt strange from the crystal's warmth, but adrenaline cut through the confusion. He moved to the door, heart pounding. The girls huddled near their mother, their silver hair catching the firelight. The younger one whimpered. Daniel looked back at them. He wasn't ready for whatever was coming, but he had no choice anymore. The seed, the bond, the strange reward, whether chain or shielded, had already marked him. Outside, another sound echoed. Not one set of footsteps. Many, moving closer. Daniel tightened his grip on the rifle. The night was about to break. The silence outside broke with a low growl. Daniel's grip on the rifle tightened, his finger brushing the trigger guard. Heart hammered like a drum inside his chest. Through the cracks in the cabin wall, he saw shadows moving in the trees tall. Heavy shapes circling like wolves. The alien woman pressed her daughters closer to the wall, shielding them with her body. Her eyes blazed silver in the firelight, calm but sharp. They have come sooner than I thought, she whispered. Daniel swallowed. How many? Too many, she replied. A deep voice thundered from outside. Give them back, human. The little ones are ours. The words were rough, broken in his language, but their meaning was clear. Daniel stepped closer to the door. His rifle steady, though his hands shook with adrenaline. You'll have to come take them, he shouted back. The cabin fell into tense silence. Then another growl, louder, closer. Something heavy slammed against the door, shaking the wooden frame. The girls screamed, and Daniel's stomach dropped. Stay behind me, he barked. His eyes flicking toward them, The alien woman rose, standing tall, her cloak spreading behind her like wings. "They will not break me again," she said, her voice full of steel. Again, the door shook. Splinters rained down. Daniel raised the rifle, aimed at the center, waiting. The warmth of the crystal's mark burned faintly across his hand, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Then the door crashed open. The first hunter burst through, towering, armored, his skin dark and ridged with bone. His jaws split open, revealing teeth made for tearing flesh. He roared, filling the cabin with sound. Daniel fired. The gunshot echoed like thunder. The bullet slammed into the hunter's chest, knocking him back, but not down. The beast staggered, then straightened, snarling. Daniel's pulse spiked. A normal shot should have dropped him, but the hunter kept coming. The alien woman stepped forward, her hand lifting. Light exploded from her palm, slamming into the hunter's chest. He howled, crashing into the wall, smoke rising from his armor. Daniel's eyes widened. "You can do that?" She didn't look back. "Protect them," she ordered. "I will fight." Another shadow leaped through the shattered doorway. Daniel fired again, the recoil rattling his shoulder. This time, the crystal mark on his hand flared. The bullet glowed faint blue as it left the barrel land when it struck. The hunter dropped instantly, the lights searing through him like fire. Daniel froze, stunned. That wasn't normal. The seed, it had changed his weapon. The woman's eyes flicked toward him, quick approval in her sharp gaze. "Now you see?" More hunters poured into the cabin, snarling, their eyes burning with hunger. The air filled with smoke, fire, and gunshots. Daniel fired again and again, each bullet glowing brighter than the last. Hunters fell, but more pressed. In, the girls screamed, covering their ears, but they didn't look away from their mother. She moved like a storm, silver light pouring from her hands, cutting through the beasts with a fury Daniel had never seen. Still, they were outnumbered. For every hunter that fell, another came crashing through. The walls of the cabin groaned under the chaos. Daniel reloaded, his hands shaking. Sweat dripped down his face. The mark on his skin pulsed hotter, faster, until it felt like his blood was on fire. His vision sharpened, his movements quicker. One hunter lunged at him, jaws wide. Daniel raised the rifle too slow, but his other hand shot forward on its own. Blue light burst from his palm, slamming into the beast and hurling it back against the wall. He gasped, staring at his hand. He hadn't pulled the trigger. He hadn't even known he could do that. The woman smiled grimly. "The seed has awakened in you." Daniel shook his head. "What the hell have you done to me?" Before she could answer, the largest shadow yet filled the doorway. Taller than all the others, covered in bone armor. Its roar shook the cabin to its foundation. The hunters paused, stepping back as if making room. The leader had arrived. Daniel's rifle felt suddenly too small. The fire crackled low. The girls whimpered, clutching their mother. The woman's voice was calm, but heavy with warning. "This is no longer a fight to protect. This is a fight to survive." Daniel raised his glowing hand. The leader took a step forward, claws gleaming in the firelight. The real battle had just begun. The leader hunter ducked under the ruined doorway, its massive frame filling the cabin with shadows. Its eyes glowed red, brighter than burning coals, and its claws scraped across the wooden floor as it stepped inside. The smaller hunters moved aside, bowing their heads slightly, their snarls silenced in respect. Daniel's chest tightened. The rifle in his hands felt like a toy compared to the giant now staring at him. His glowing hand pulsed with heat, blue veins spreading up his wrist like fire under the skin. He forced himself to stand tall, even as sweat rolled down his face. The alien woman stepped beside him. Her silver eyes locked on the leader, her voice low. This one cannot be stopped by bullets alone. You must use what the seed has given you. Daniel shook his head. I don't even know how to use it. You already did, she answered firmly. Trust it. The leader hunter bared its teeth, then roared. The sound rattled the cabin, sending dust and splinters raining down. One powerful swing, it smashed the table in half, scattering wood and the glowing crystal seed Daniel had been given earlier. The blue light pulsed from the shards like a heartbeat. The girls screamed, clutching each other, their small voices drowned by the beast's growl. Daniel moved in front of them without thinking, his rifle raised. The leader lunged. Daniel fired. The bullet shot forward, glowing bright blue, striking the beast in the chest. But instead of falling, the hunter only staggered, then roared louder. Its armor had absorbed the shot, too strong. Daniel muttered. The woman lifted both her hands, silver light exploding from her palms. The force slammed into the leader, pushing it back a few steps, but it planted its claws into the floor and resisted. With a furious snarl, it swung its arm, smashing into the woman. She flew against the wall, crashing hard. Daniel's heart jumped. No. The leader turned its burning eyes toward him. Something inside Daniel snapped. The heat. In his hand, spread up his arm, into his chest, into his very bones. His vision blurred, then sharpened, colors glowing brighter, sounds sharper. He could feel the energy of the seed coursing through him. The hunter charged. Daniel didn't raise his rifle. Kay raised his hand. A burst of blue light erupted, brighter. Then the fire, striking the beast directly in the chest. The leader staggered, roaring in pain this time, smoke rising from the burned armor. Daniel fell to one knee, gasping, the energy draining him. But he forced himself back up. The woman staggered to her feet, her cloak torn, blood glistening on her lips. She looked at Daniel, surprise flashing in her silver eyes. You are not only bound, she said. You are chosen. The leader growled again and came forward, slower now, but no less deadly. The cabin shook with each step. Daniel's mind raced. He couldn't hold out much longer. His body felt like it was burning alive from the inside. The woman moved beside him again, raising her hands. We strike together, she said. Daniel nodded. Breath ragged, on 3. The beast roared, charging one final time. 1, Daniel shouted, aiming his glowing hand. 2, the woman's silver light gathered, sparks filling the cabin. 3, the two unleashed their power at once, blue fire and silver storm colliding into one blinding wave. The energy struck the leader hunter square in the chest. The roar that followed shook the ruins for miles. The monster was lifted from its feet, thrown back through the shattered doorway into the night. Smoke and ash trailed behind it as it crashed against the trees outside. The other hunters shrieked in fear, stumbling back, their courage broken. For a moment, the cabin was silent, except for the crackle of fire and Daniel's heavy breathing. The girls rushed to their mother, clinging to her legs. She smiled weakly, holding them close, then looked at Daniel. It is not over, she said, her voice faint but steady. That was only the beginning. They will return with more. Daniel wiped sweat from his brow, his hands still glowing faintly. His body trembled, but inside, a strange certainty grew. He had faced death and survived. He looked at the woman, then at the two girls who now watched him with wide, trusting eyes. They'll have to go through me first, Daniel said. Outside, the forest was quiet, but in the distance, faint echoes carried on the wind, more hunters, more danger, waiting for their chance to strike. The battle for survival was far from finished. The forest was quiet again, But Daniel knew it would not last. The hunters had been defeated for now. The leader lay broken among the trees, his army scattered. But their howls had carried far into the night. Others would come. Inside the cabin, the fire burned low. The girls huddled close to their mother, whispering in their strange language. The woman's eyes were heavy with exhaustion, but she stood tall, her silver cloak falling around her like a shield. Daniel leaned against the wall, his rifle by his side, his glowing hand trembling. The mark of the crystal still burned across his skin, faint but alive. He had never felt so drained and yet never so awake. Finally, he spoke. That wasn't just a fight. That was a war waiting to happen. Why me? Why bring this to my door? The woman turned, her silver eyes glowing softly. You were chosen the moment you acted with mercy. When you lifted them from the ruins, the path opened. Daniel shook his head. I didn't ask for this. Her lips curved into a faint smile. Heroes never do. She stepped closer, holding the crystal shard that had fallen from the table. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. The seed is not only a bond, it is a gift. To us, it is sacred. To you, it will be strength beyond men. But strength is not the only reward. Daniel frowned. Then what is? She knelt before him, her daughters peeking from behind her cloak. A place among us, not as a stranger, not as an enemy, but as family. The word hit him harder than any roar of the hunters. Family, it had been years since Daniel had heard it with meaning. Alone in the ruins, fighting only to survive. He had forgotten what it felt like to belong. The younger girl crept forward, tugging at his sleeve. Her glowing eyes stared up at him with innocent trust. Stay with us, she whispered in broken words. Daniel swallowed hard. His throat ached. He looked at the mother, then at the girls, then down at the faint blue mark glowing on his hand. Outside, the wind howled again. Shadows moved among the trees, far away, but not gone. The hunters would return. He could run, abandon them now, vanish into the ruins. But the thought sickened him. He knelt, placing a hand on the little girl's shoulder. I'll stay, he said quietly. I'll protect you. Relief washed over her face. The older sister finally smiled. Small, fragile smile, but real. The woman bowed her head. Then you have accepted the reward. Not gold, not power, but blood, bond, family. From this moment, you are tied to us, human, and we to you. The firelight flickered, catching the silver in their eyes and the blue glow on Daniel's skin. For the first time in years, the cabin felt less like a lonely prison and more like a home. But peace did not last long. A distant horn echoed through the forest, deep and haunting. The hunters were calling. Daniel stood, gripping his rifle, his glowing hand pulsing brighter. The woman rose beside him, her cloak brushing the floor, her power gathering again. The girls clung to her, but their eyes no longer showed only fear. They looked at Daniel, and in their gaze was something new, hope. Daniel took a deep breath. Then let them come. The woman nodded. Together, we will face them. The cabin door stood broken, the night beyond full of danger. But Daniel no longer felt alone. The strange reward had bound him to something greater than survival, and as the hunters' howls rose once more, Daniel knew this was only the beginning of a new story, one written not in fear, but in family.